All right, hi everybody. You all are not going to be a stranger to this concept, but all life starts in the soil. We have to take care of people that take care of the land. Elizabeth Warren is someone who understands that fundamentally. It's really why I'm proud to work for her. I am John Russell. I handle rural outreach for Elizabeth here in Iowa. And my road to Elizabeth winds all the way back to a place none of you have heard of. It's Wellsville, Ohio. Show of hands if you have heard of it. I'll be surprised. There you go. I think we got one guy back there. You've probably heard of Fiesta Ware. Fiesta Ware is manufactured about a mile away from where I grew up. It's one of the last manufacturers in the Ohio Valley. My town, Wellsville, 3,500 people, small steel town, 50 miles south of Youngstown, shares a border with West Virginia and Pennsylvania. And I grew up in a farm family there. My grandparents were dairy farmers. My mom taught home ec in my high school, which was great because I had a class of 55 kids, so it made social life a little bit hard. My dad ran a business in town, and my brother and I did 11 years of 4-H, never missed a county fair, et cetera, et cetera. Our town was a really good place to grow up, but in its heyday, it was manufacturing hub. It sent steel and pottery all over the world, even out to restaurants in Iowa that have Fiesta Ware. But when I grew up, it was very, very tough times. We had lost employers and manufacturers, and it had gotten so bad that in a very small high school, I had 5 friends in my high school and more from the town that passed away from opiate addiction. And it was a very early lesson to me that to fix rural towns, to fix our hometowns, we have got to fix our politics, and we have got to go head on at corruption. And you can probably see that that is the path that put me to discovering Elizabeth Warren and working with her today. I went off to Cornell University and did an ag degree, which is a funny story because I love Mr. John Eichard. And we were in ag science class, and one of the assigned readings was Sustainable Capitalism, written by John Eichard. I come to Iowa, and I'm sitting on Francis Tickey's couch, and he said, "You should go meet my friend John Eichard." And I said, "Holy cow, the guy who wrote the books." And lo and behold, it was meant to be. So it's an honor to speak with you, John, and everybody else here about issues that really matter. I'm going to talk a little bit about Elizabeth's story, how her farm plan came together. I helped put that together here in Iowa, and what kind of president you can expect her to be. Elizabeth grew up working class in Oklahoma. Their family almost went bankrupt, but it was a minimum wage job taken by her mother that rescued the family from the edge of bankruptcy, and that's a value that stuck with her forever. She went to college. She dropped out, became a single mother, put herself back through college, came out and taught public school for a while. Then she went on to law school and started studying something that was very personal to her, and that was why families go bankrupt. That's been the question of her life, and it took her from a law professor just out of school to the height of her field in studying bankruptcy, and it was at that time when the 2008 financial crisis happened. She came up with the idea for the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to regulate Wall Street and return money to folks. And then she got it passed through the House, the Senate, signed into the law by the president. That was before she was elected. And the reason why I tell that story is because it is a window into how she solves problems, listens to people, and comes up with a solution. I saw that story play out with her farm policy and how she wrote it right here in Iowa. People who listen and campaign and show up in rural areas are important to me because I'm from there, and I want to see that in government. Elizabeth hired a rural outreach coordinator to do just that. It was a big reason why I chose her. But then my beginning months here, my job was to go out and listen to the grass tops leaders, the people who have been on the front lines. Many of you here today I've met and talked with, and to fight for the ideas, a lot of which we talked about on this stage, to become the leading platform for Elizabeth. So what I want to do is briefly run through her farm program and how that came together, and then I'd love to open it up to questions. and sit down and answer some of the questions that other surrogates have done too. So our farm program, what we have. I started this off by saying everything starts with the soil, and we have to take care of folks that take care of the land. We are living in a system that is of, by, and for large corporations and ag monopolies. The history of that has been laid out very well today. Back in the 70s, it was get big or get out. That's what people were told to do. And now we're living with the consequences of that policy. So first, in the Warren administration, we are going to enforce antitrust law aggressively. Just like every industry, we've seen consolidation take over agriculture. 1 in 4 because of mergers. 1 in 4 hogs in America and in Iowa too has a Chinese owner because of Smithfield merging with a Chinese company. We want to appoint antitrust regulators at the DOJ and roll back consolidation and mergers like that, like Bayer-Monsanto. Vertical integration and the way that the poultry industry went is crushing farmers, and it's keeping opportunities out of reach for people who want to go back onto the land. So we are going to prevent contract farming that has been crushing farmers for the last couple of decades and has seen the rise of so many animal confinements. We want to reestablish GIPSA as a regulator of a lot of these confinements. We want to fight for country of origin labeling laws to put our farmers on a level playing field. And we want to crack down on the abuse of checkoff programs where you pay into it and then sometimes it's used to crush competition in smaller companies. That's the antitrust side of things, but that's not enough. We need to rebuild a new farm economy, and we need to prioritize conservation when we do that. So what we came up with is taking the conservation stewardship program, an idea from Tom Harkin, from less than $1 billion in funding today to $15 billion, more than we currently fund crop insurance premium subsidies. We want farmers to be able to have a revenue from doing the right thing, from building soil health. We want to rebuild markets and infrastructure that's been lost over consolidation. So we take local agricultural market program from 50 million today up to 500 million. We take the farm to school program, which is currently at a couple $1 million of funding, and we take it up to $1 billion. And we expand it not only to schools, but to public hospitals, to defense bases, to all public institutions, so that not only can you have revenue from doing the right farming practices, but you can have markets to make money too. Lastly, in building a new farm economy, we want to transition away from crop insurance subsidies to a supply management program where you're guaranteed a fair price in exchange for putting your land into conservation measures so we fight back against overproduction. Those are the really big priorities in making sure that you can both make money on the farm, but also build your soil health and help us fight climate change and clean our air and water and conserve our natural resources that took millions and millions of years to build. We close it out by a call similar to the Green New Deal. If we are going to put farmers in the driver's seat of solving climate change, we need young people to have a path back onto the farm. If we want to rebuild our rural communities, we need to rebuild the path home. So we have a land trust program where we want to fund buying land from retiring farmers and selling it on favorable terms to new, beginning, and diverse farmers. All of this is coupled with a call to restore the extension mission of our land-grant universities and to prevent their capture by ag monopolies. I know the Leopold Center here is a perfect example of that. Ag companies endow chairs and make donations and direct research that goes to direct the administration of the Natural Resource Conservation Program. We need to make sure that states are funding our land-grant universities fully to insulate them from that influence and make them a partner in both getting new farmers started and discovering the practices that are going to start rebuilding our rural communities and a good life on the farm. If that sounds good to you, please caucus for Elizabeth on February 3rd. And if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them now, and I'll leave my cards on the back table. They have my personal cell phone. This is an all-access campaign, and we want to hear from you. That's how we're going to get this done.
All right, let's give it up for John Russell. It turns out that John answered all of my questions. Quite literally. You kind of did this. Yeah, it's there. He nailed it all. So we're just going to take 2 questions from the audience, because I'm going to try to peel through here and try to find one of my questions that wasn't answered. But for now, we'll get a microphone into the audience and see if there's 2 questions for John. Yeah.
Sure. Thanks, folks. That's the easiest test I took. Come up with a tough one.
Great job so far.
Pull us together.
Can you share what it's like to be a surrogate for Elizabeth Warren? Like, what are some experiences that you've had in doing this work?
Thank you. Incredibly nerve-wracking. It's been amazing. We are 9 days away from the caucus. This is something that's been life-changing. I'm a person, my brother and I always tinkered in the farm shop. When I was 13, I stole my mom's hot plate and I started cooking biodiesel in the farm shop, right? And then I ended up welding up this biodiesel machine that made, 250 gallons of the stuff a day, and I didn't tell my dad I was running it in our tractors. The point I'm saying here, really early on, I cared about climate change and what we're going to do about it and what people are doing in rural communities. And this election right now is when we have to figure that out. And being in Iowa for Elizabeth, for a candidate who is really taking on the interest, standing in the way, but also providing a vision, is something that I will never forget. This work is what I want to do, regardless of what happens in this election. Look forward to doing it with all of you, and thank you.
Awesome. Let's get one more question. Yeah, in the back there.
We've got 2 minutes.
Great.
This is very quick.
Sure.
Does she talk about parity? Does she consider parity, the standard of parity as a price floor? It used to be 90% of parity in the New Deal.
Yes, in rebuilding the new farm economy, we kind of have 2 really major planks. Number 1, revenue for conservation practices that you're doing and expanding the practices that are covered and really funding it at a level where it can be a serious stream of revenue to adopt longer-term rotations, increasing water penetration rates, putting cattle back on the land, sequestering carbon through keeping land in long-term grass. That's one plank of it. But to your plank, we go back to FDR's standard, and we want to pick that up and adapt it to the farm economy today. We're going to guarantee for those commodity producers, we're going to guarantee a price at the cost of living on the farm to keep you there. We are always listening for the best way to do that and to make it really work, but conditional on in getting your fair price is entering X number of acres into conservation practices to make you eligible. We want you to have a fair price, yes, but we also need to fight back against the overproduction that's seen the erosion of our topsoil and the crushing of prices. So that's... That is, I will follow up. You need an answer to that. I don't have it today. We're really similar, but I'll get it to you. Yes, 9 days left. I know, Brad. I've got your email.
Last thing, just this can be a simple one-sentence or one-word answer for this. On national security, for Warren administration, where would this fall on ranking in terms of priorities for the United States national security of this type of policy? From your understanding at this point, where do you see it falling in terms of national security priorities?
I'm going to give you an answer. I'm going to give you 2 answers here. I think your 100 days question and kind of gets at her priorities and where this would fall in that. I think the first thing in the 100 days to make good on all of the things I just talked about is appointing a Secretary of Agriculture that has a proven track record of supporting regenerative agriculture, or who has actually been in that. That's a priority of
I have some recommendations, so we can talk later.
Yeah, no, we need a short list, right?
Well, hey, everybody, let's give it up for John. Thank you so much. This was wonderful, amazing presentation. Thank you so much. Yes, and now we're going to introduce you. Where is you?